a thought leader not only for students in Harvard, IIM, Ahmedabad to start with, Ohio State, where my dear friend John Shank was there, and uh, and a lot of things. But I am very pleased that in the past 3 to 4 years, my relationship with Vijay, in particular regarding Great Lakes, has gone beyond leaps and bounds, and he is now the chief strategy advisor for our dean and for the school. So I thought we should have some outside input. So we have what is called as a founders forum, and where Vijay is taking a very significant commitment and contributions par excellence to Great Lakes as a member of that and a leader of that. You have seen his Wikipedia materials and other things. I also want to make sure at the end of this particular program, again, I want you to go back to the last year's presentation by him on reverse innovation and the idea of Devi Shetty's Narayana Hospital, how India can create a very big leading reverse innovation initiative. Of course, his three-box solution, which many of our libraries have it, including our library, many copies. And at the end, we are going to have a competition. The reward is his books to some students who does certain things in terms of strategic intent and contribute in innovative ways the improvement for the school itself. So we are going to do that. So as a matter of fact, it is very clear, just like any other young Indian in the college, his dreams were in US. He did his chartered accountancy exam with a gold medal, number one rank. Whatever he does it right. And there is only one rank he knows, that is rank number one. Whether it is chartered accountancy or McKinsey award for his best papers or leading change even in places like Jack Welch place, which later on Jeff Immelt also took charge. And he was there as a chief innovation consultant, full time with them, and created a lot of things. Last year on my birthday, we had Indra Nooyi on July 5. So this year I thought Vijay should do that. And Vijay said, Bala, uh, I have a much better time on 7th rather than 5th. What do you think? All right, the students were thinking about having some variety entertainment. And, you know, we had Surya and the other lady monitoring that, comparing that. Anyway, we had a great time on the cultural aspect of it on July 5. Today is my star birthday. See, actually, this star is a star called Rohini, and I am very pleased he chose 7th, and it's such a nice time. And I think let us have the birthday celebration continued. As an academic, I cannot settle down with just the cultural program. Fun is needed, but sun is also needed. And sun is scholastic things. And nobody else can do better than Vijay. As a matter of fact, he was the outstanding professor of the year award in both New York Times and Wall Street, even in Forbes magazine cited. And if they are at one time the top 10 professors in business schools were ranked consistently is number one. in the whole US, not because of just like that. And note that the US population doesn't give things free if you are somebody with a different color. But anyway, whatever it is, I'm so pleased to have Dr. Vijay Govindarajan, who is the chairman of the strategy group for Great Lakes, taking to higher levels of innovation in terms of curriculum. I do also want to see, which I did not mention, last year I sent it, and I will make sure Pratima send again that. He had an 8-minute video when the COVID came, and a revolutionary thought he made, that what is the challenge? Everybody talks about COVID, but what are the opportunities COVID has provided? And he proposed, I am so pleased to hear that the why the undergraduate program in US should have a 4-year program. Why not it be 3 years? And we can do so much with 3 years that cannot be done by this 4-year program, even though, yes, nothing like brick and mortar and face to face, but still this blended uh, switch mode is an amazing way of saving tremendous amount of time and costs, and at the same time the learning can be a continuous journey throughout the life. So learn for life and return for life. That's probably the motto. So without much ado, let us give a very big hand to the one and only dear friend Vijay Govindarajan. Vijay, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Bala. Really appreciate that introduction. What I would like to do is perhaps take about 20 minutes and introduce the idea of reverse innovation and then open it up for questions. You see, historically, companies innovated in a rich country like the US and sold those products in a poor country like India. Reverse innovation is about doing exactly the opposite. It is about innovating in a poor country like India and then selling those products in a rich country like the US. By the way, when I use the word rich country and poor country, I am not trying to make any value judgments here. This is not about whether a country is desirable to live or not. This is strictly the World Bank definition. World Bank takes the average per capita income in the world and draws a line. Any country above the line is supposed to be a rich country. Any country below the line is supposed to be a poor country. And there are about 160 poor countries according to the World Bank definition. By the way, if you stop to think about it, reverse innovation is a completely counterintuitive idea. Why? Because it is perfectly logical to see why a poor man would want a rich man's product. That's logical. If a rich man is driving a car, poor man wants a car. If a rich man has a cell phone, the poor lady, she wants a cell phone. But it is not that logical to see why a rich man would want a poor man's product. This is the essence of reverse innovation. I contend all of you youngsters, when you graduate and go to work, reverse innovation would be a significant growth opportunity that you can seize, especially because you are located in one of those emerging economies, namely India. Now, let me give an example to highlight why a rich man would want a poor man's product. Let me use the example of healthcare industry. Think about the healthcare industry in the richest country in the world, United States of America. First of all, we spend a lot of money on healthcare in the US. And after spending all that money, our quality is not necessarily world class. After spending all this money, we cannot guarantee universal access. Even after Obamacare, close to 60 million Americans are either underinsured or uninsured. So US healthcare industry is characterized by very high costs, not necessarily world-class quality, and certainly cannot guarantee universal access. Suppose I tell you there are healthcare breakthrough innovations happening in poor countries, which are based on world-class quality healthcare, ultra low cost, and universal care, universal access. Wouldn't the rich guy not be interested? Based on my research, I have found hundreds of such experiments going on in poor countries. I'm going to just profile one of them, and Bala alluded to this. This is Narayana Health in Bangalore, India. This is a cardiac hospital. Open heart surgery in Narayana Health in Bangalore costs $2,000. Open heart surgery in the United States will cost $150,000. I just want you to think about this. Open heart surgery in the US costs $150,000. Open heart surgery in Narayana Health costs $2,000. Because that doesn't mean their quality is 75 times inferior. I can't even think how you can do poor quality heart surgery. One measure of quality in heart surgery is mortality rates 30 days after surgery. For Narayana Health in Bangalore, their mortality 30 days after surgery is 1.2%. And the US average is 2%. Therefore, their quality is on par, maybe even slightly ahead. This is the central point that I want to drive home. Reverse innovation is not about offering products which are low cost, but also inferior in quality. Reverse innovation is about pushing the price performance paradigm. It is about doing more with less. It is about doing a lot more with a lot less. It is about doing world-class quality at an ultra-low cost. By the way, counterintuitive as it may seem, the quality demanded by consumers in poor countries like India tend to be higher than quality demanded by consumers in rich country like the US. That is certainly true for open heart surgery. What I mean by that is, if a surgeon is doing open heart surgery on an Indian patient in Narayana Health, that surgeon has to have higher quality skills to reduce mortality as compared to a similar procedure done, say, in Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Why? For one thing, Indians tend to have bad hearts. Not bad people's hearts. Indians genetically have weak hearts. Therefore, an Indian surgeon doing an open heart surgery on an Indian patient in Bangalore has to have higher skill to reduce mortality. Not only that, pollution in India is much worse as compared to the US. Hygienic conditions in India are much worse as compared to the US. What that means is post-surgery, mortality tends to be high in India. If you adjust for these risk factors, what Narayana Health has achieved is truly remarkable. The other interesting thing about Narayana Health is they guarantee universal access. If someone cannot pay, they do the open heart surgery either free of cost or at subsidized rates. So much so, 55% of the patients do not pay the $2,000. It is only the remaining 45% pay the $2,000, which is 75 times less than what we charge in the US. And they try to recover the cost of 100% of the patients on 45% paying patients. Can you imagine this? And this is a for-profit hospital. This is not a charity. This is not non-profit. Can you imagine a profit-maximizing firm gives out its product to 55% of the customers free of cost? Selling price for 55% of the customers is zero. By the way, selling price may even be negative for certain customers. Why? Because many of the customers Narayana Health sources are from rural India. And they have to travel all the way from their village to Bangalore facility to have the open heart surgery. And Narayana Health pays for the transportation costs and then does the open heart surgery free. And as you all well know, people don't travel alone from the village. They always travel with an entourage. And Narayana Health pays for the entire entourage transportation costs and then puts them up in a hotel post-surgery. Can you believe this? A profit maximizing firm gives its product to 55% of the customers, selling price is either zero or negative, and charges only $2,000 for the remaining 45% of the patients, which is 75 times less than what we charge in the US, and then covers the cost of 100% of the patients on 45% paying patients. And yet, Narayana Health is the most profitable cardiac hospital in the world. Can you believe that? The person who founded Narayana Health is Dr. Devi Shetty. Dr. Devi Shetty's life story is very interesting. There is a Netflix show. I would strongly urge you watch the Netflix show on Dr. Devi Shetty. It's only about 50 minutes. Dr. Devi Shetty, as you well know, in India, if you're very, very smart, your parents encourage you to do medicine. Therefore, Dr. Devi Shetty was very smart, so he was encouraged to do medicine. And if you are extremely smart, amongst the smartest people, they not only encourage you to do medicine, but they encourage you to do cardiac surgery. So to begin with, Dr. Devi Shetty is in the top 0.0001% brain power in India. Then he went to Guy's Hospital, which is in London, one of the best private hospitals for residency. So the point that I'm trying to say is he is like all of you students, extremely smart, extremely well-educated. He could have taken the easy route by just only serving rich patients and doing open heart surgery on rich patients and living a good life. Instead, he chose to start this Narayana Health. Why? Because Mother Teresa had a heart problem and they wanted someone, the best cardiac surgeon in the world, to do open heart surgery on Mother Teresa. And they therefore invited Dr. Devi Shetty. And when Dr. Devi Shetty met Mother Teresa, something happened. He found his life's calling. He found his purpose. He found his mission in life because Mother Teresa convinced him about compassion. Mother Teresa convinced him, Dr. Devi Shetty, why don't you take your phenomenal skills and benefit the poor instead of the rich? And Dr. Devi Shetty knew charity is not scalable. Charity dollars only goes one time. Whereas if we can create a business, it keeps on giving. That is why all of you are doing a business management course. Business is a very powerful force. It is a force for the good. Therefore, Dr. Devi Shetty said, let me create a business which makes profits. But the profits enables him to achieve his purpose, which is to make healthcare a human right. Purpose cannot be to make money. Money is essential to achieve your purpose. All of you, before you graduate from Great Lakes, you must identify what your life's purpose is. Very, very important. You're going to learn about accounting, finance, marketing. They are important. But what is even more important is to get in touch with yourself and understand yourself. What is your dream? What do you want to achieve in your lifetime? Now, ultra low cost, world-class quality, universal care. How does Narayana Health able to do this as a profit maximizer? Let me give you one example, and during question and answer, I can elaborate on other ways by which they bring down the cost while maintaining quality. If you went to Mayo Clinic and if you went to Narayana Health, you're going to see the same high quality medical equipment, same CAT scanner, same MR machine, same ultrasound, same electrocardiogram. That means Narayana Health can also guarantee the same world-class quality as Mayo Clinic. But then Narayana Health cost also will be at the same level as Mayo Clinic. How come Narayana Health cost is 75 times less? It is because Narayana Health uses its equipment 75 times more. Isn't this not what you learned in managerial accounting 101? Isn't this not what you learned in operations 101? If you have a fixed cost resource and if you utilize it fully, cost per unit comes down. Isn't this not what Henry Ford taught us 100 years ago? If you mass produce automobiles, cost per automobile comes down. Essentially, Dr. Devi Shetty has borrowed ideas that are well known in the manufacturing sector and applying it to medicine. He is simply producing open heart surgery on an assembly line. Suppose you tell your friend, hey, here is a hospital which mass produces open heart surgery. What would be that friend's reaction? The first reaction is going to be, quality must suffer. I ask why? You don't worry about the quality of automobiles when it comes off of assembly line. What is so special about open heart surgery? Counterintuitive as it may seem, when you mass produce open heart surgery, quality dramatically goes up. Why? Because their cardiac surgeons do so many cardiac surgeries, they are at the cutting edge of their fields. They have seen all possible complications. By the way, I want you to contrast the way Narayana Health operates versus how a US hospital operates. If you walk into a US hospital and go into their imaging center, what you're going to see is a $1 million CAT scanner, $2 million MR machine used 15% of the time. 85% of the time, it is sitting idle. Why? Because in America, we believe Americans have a birthright to have the MR machine and CAT scanner available whenever we need it. I ask why. If Ford Motor Company operated its plants that way and kept their most expensive machinery 85% of the time idle, what will happen to the cost of automobiles? Why do we tolerate this level of inefficiency in healthcare in the US? And Dr. Devi Shetty is showing a solution. He's not only showing a solution. A couple of years ago, Dr. Devi Shetty and Narayana Health brought their business model to Cayman Islands. And they opened the largest cardiac facility in Cayman Islands, 2,000-bed cardiac facility. As you know, Cayman Islands is a 1-hour flight from Miami. Therefore, this facility in Cayman Islands is targeted at American patients. He wants to demonstrate how you can do open heart surgery at a fraction of the cost it takes to do it in the US. And then post-surgery in Cayman Islands, you can have 2-3 weeks of vacation on the beach. An example of reverse innovation, a breakthrough innovation that first happened in India, which is now coming back to the US and transforming the lives of people in the US. I'm going to sum up with a few further observations and then open it up for question and answers. By the way, if you want to follow my work on innovation, I have now started a column in my LinkedIn. You can go to my LinkedIn page and follow me, and you will get a series of articles that I am writing on innovation. Here are a couple of thoughts on innovation as we wrap up. You see, in the US, if you ask someone to do innovation, the first thing that they ask is, give me resources. Whereas reverse innovation is about doing innovation with less resources, not with more. In fact, in the US, we define innovation as value for money. I define innovation as value for many. And value for many is about doing more with less. It is about doing lot more with lot less for a lot of people. It is about frugal thinking. It is about frugal innovation. Dr. Devi Shetty and Narayana Health is frugal thinking. If you want another example of frugal innovation, how about India's mission to Mars, which happened, all of you must be familiar, several years ago. By the way, when India launched its mission to Mars, at the same time, America also, NASA launched a mission to Mars. Here is the interesting fact. America's mission to Mars costed $2 billion. India's mission to Mars costed $75 million. This is what I mean by frugal thinking. India's mission to Mars cost $75 million. America's mission to Mars cost $2,000 million. Yet the outcome is the same. As we speak, the rockets of both India and America are circling around Mars. In fact, just about the time when India launched its mission to Mars, there was a Hollywood movie called Gravity. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend you see it. It's a great movie. It won an Oscar. And Gravity is a movie about a failed mission to Mars. And that movie costed $150 million. Think about it. Hollywood make-believe failed mission to Mars cost twice as much as India's successful mission to Mars. One way I can wrap up reverse innovation is if you take 100 poor people at random and 100 rich people at random, there is absolutely no difference between the two groups. Poor people have the same heart as the rich people, is it not? Poor people's heart is not inferior as compared to rich people's heart. Therefore, shouldn't poor people also get the same world-class quality open heart surgery as the rich people? Poor people have the same ambition as the rich. Poor people have the same wants as the rich. Poor people have the same needs as the rich. Why can't poor people have the same world-class quality products and services that rich enjoy? That is the essence of reverse innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Vijay, for such an enlightening talk. So I'm going to have some questions which I'll put it across to you. The first one is, from what we heard, the purpose seems to be very critical for the reverse innovation work itself. So what is purpose, Professor Vijay?
Great question. That itself will call for a 1-hour talk, but I would recommend, and I can give you the link to this, there is a talk by Simon Sinek in TED. By the way, that Simon Sinek's talk is most watched on TED, 25 million downloads. And he defines purpose beautifully as an answer to 3 questions: what, how, and why. And he talks about purpose for an organization, but I say we can use the same framework to think about purpose at an individual level. Now, very quickly, every organization knows what they do. If you ask Great Lakes, what do you do? Well, we produce MBS. If you ask a laundromat in Chennai, what do? We clean clothes. 100% of the organizations know what they do. Not 100% of the organizations, but a substantial number of organizations can tell you how what they do is superior to what competitors do. If you are Great Lakes, why are you better than I am Ahmedabad or Bangalore or Calcutta or ISB? You can give a whole lot of reasons as to why you have competitive superiority. If you ask the laundromat in Chennai, why are you the best laundromat? They can say, we clean clothes better, we clean clothes cheaper, we don't damage clothes, whatever. Greatness for an organization does not come by answering the question what and how. Greatness comes only if we can answer a third question, why do you exist? This is an existential question. By the way, the answer to the question why is not the same to the answer to the question what and how. Let me give you an example. Apple has a lion's share in the smartphone market. There are a lot of players in the smartphone markets. So if you ask every player in the smartphone market, they can tell you what they do. If you ask Samsung, they can tell you what they do. Everybody can tell you what they do. Most of them can also tell you how their smartphone is the best, better than competitors. Samsung can tell you a whole lot of reasons as to why their smartphone is better than everyone else. Bigger screen, better apps, whatever. Then how come Apple has a lion's share of the smartphone market? Because they have answered the third question, why do they exist? They do not exist to produce smartphones. They exist to disrupt the status quo. That is their reason for being. They exist to create revolution. Every day when employees come to work at Apple, they want to disrupt the status quo that manifests itself in the iPhone. Customers buy why you exist. Customers do not buy what you do or how what you do is superior to what others do. Of course, the answer to the question what and how are necessary, but not sufficient for greatness. So therefore, I want to ask everyone, the 300 and almost 400 people listening in on this call, what is your purpose in life? By the way, you cannot fake that. You cannot say something to make yourself look good in front of others. This has to be deeply felt and has to come from your heart. If I ask you, why did you wake up in the morning? This is the question I'm asking. The existential question is, why did you wake up in the morning today? You can't say, I woke up in the morning to come and attend to Vijay's lecture. No, that is what you do. That's not why you woke up. There's a reason you woke up. Can you understand that reason? So that is the notion of purpose, and certainly all of you should watch Simon Sinek's TED Talk and then use the time at Great Lakes to really spend time with yourself. Go underneath a tree. Think about why God put you on planet Earth. What is your reason for being?
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Vijay, for these amazing insights. I think the next question is, I think the world admires the West for the higher education. How can a concept like reverse innovation disrupt higher education in the West?
By the way, the higher education industry in the United States is seriously broke because of its very high cost. At Dartmouth, where I teach, undergrad education is $75,000 a year. That's $300,000 for 4 years. Now, I ask myself the question, why does it cost so much? And I've come to the conclusion there are 5 cross subsidies that are going on in higher education. It is these 5 cross subsidies which are dramatically increasing the cost of higher education. The first cross subsidy is international students subsidize American students. International students pay the full fare. That helps the universities to subsidize American students. The second subsidy is freshmen subsidize seniors. In fact, universities make the most profit with freshmen. They make the second most profit with sophomore students, and they start losing money when the students come to junior and senior years. Why is that? Because in a freshman class, say Math 101, I can put 3,000 students in the classroom with one professor. You know all about managerial accounting. When one professor deals with 2,500 students, the economics is in your favor. Now, the student becomes a math major. Now he is in the senior year. Math major, the classes are with 20 students, taught by a senior math professor, maybe a Nobel Prize winning high cost professor. Now the economics is not in your favor. However, the tuition for freshmen and seniors is the same. Therefore, the freshmen are subsidizing the seniors. This is the second subsidy. The third subsidy is popular majors subsidize unpopular majors. Economics, government major at Dartmouth, most students take. So if 1,000 students are taking economics major, the cost per student is less. Philosophy, only 2 students take philosophy major. But the tuition for philosophy and economics is the same. The fourth subsidy we have is in the residential model, whether you use a facility or not, you pay for it. Dartmouth has a football stadium. Suppose I'm a student from India, I don't even understand football. I never go to a football game, I am still charged for the football stadium. I may never be admitted to a sorority or fraternity, but I pay for the cost of fraternity and sorority because we follow average costing. We take all the facilities and average it across all students, whether you use the facility or not. And fifth and final subsidy we have is teaching subsidizes research. By the way, let me give you an example of myself. I only teach one course at Dartmouth. That course meets for 4.5 weeks. 2 days a week. So I only teach for 9 days. My students who pay the tuition see me only for 9 days. But unfortunately, the poor student is stuck with an invoice for my 365 days of salary, even though they only see me for 9 days. Because we bundle teaching and research and ask the students to pay for it. You can say, well, VG's research helps the teaching, maybe. But nobody can convince me Math 101 in freshman benefits from research. 1 + 1 will always be 2. It never becomes 3. No research is needed. But we bundle the 2 and give it to the students. Essentially, we will be able to deal with it only when we unbundle these 5 cross subsidies. Unbundling these 5 cross subsidies requires the power of digital technologies. My question to all of you is this: can we offer Dartmouth quality education for $30,000 instead of $300,000? I'm convinced we can. If Narayana Health can produce open heart surgery for $2,000 when it costs $150,000 in the US, why can't we do that? By the way, that solution will not come from the US educational institutions. The solutions will come from poor countries. Why? Because poor countries cannot use the American model. American model is based on the principle of exclusion. At Dartmouth College, we don't believe in the principle of inclusion. We believe in the principle of exclusion. We exclude 95% of the people who apply to Dartmouth. That is our principle. In fact, I would like to call the director of admissions at Dartmouth as not as director of admissions, but as director of rejections. You reject enough students, you end up with a class. Whereas in India, we need the principle of inclusion because millions of students have to be educated, but Indians are not inferior to Americans. Therefore, we must give them the world-class quality education. Using principle of inclusion, that means you have got to figure out a way to unbundle and avoid these cross subsidies. And that model will come from poor countries like India or continent of Africa. So that's an example, a powerful example of reverse innovation.
Thank you, Professor Vijay. This question is about institutions in emerging markets are quite poor. How can the quality of these reverse innovated products be tweaked to comply with the developing market standards without extra cost? So this was one question. Related one comes from Neeru. What is the perception of products from emerging markets in the West? For example, the COVID vaccine, some of the good ones here have been rejected by many countries abroad. So
I think 2 good questions. Let me address them both. In my opinion, innovation has less to do with resources. It's got a lot to do with imagination. In fact, if you're a CEO, if you give a lot of resources to people, they will not innovate. They'll simply throw money at the problem. If you tell your managers you don't have resources, then they will innovate. In fact, constraints are a good motivator for innovation, and severe constraints are a motivator for really reverse innovation. Therefore, I don't buy the argument that resources implies you have to produce poor quality products. Narayana Health uses less resources and delivers a world-class quality product, and Narayana Health is not alone. There are other healthcare institutions in India and also players in other sectors. The second question, again, refresh me, what was the second question?
The perception of the products made from emerging markets in the West, especially the COVID vaccines, which are not considered good.
I think that is a serious problem because we somehow mentally equate quality with price. If you're paying a high price, you think you're getting high quality. That is true. But that perception can be overcome through actual results. Remember, in the 60s, when Toyota and Honda brought their cars, subcompact and compact cars into the US, initially the perception was, hey, they are low-priced products, therefore they must be lousy products. No one is laughing at Toyota and Honda now. Yes, there will be initial perception, but then slowly as the consumer experience, there will be certain consumers who will give it a try. And when they experience the quality is the same at a much lower price point, then the perceptions change. My point is perceptions can be changed, but it's an important question.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Vijay. I think there's so many questions, so I'm going to go for the last two questions, given the kind of time constraints. Emerging markets being breeding grounds for reverse innovation, is it primarily because the labor is cheap in countries like India? Is that one of the main drivers? And the associated question is, why are costs so high in developed economies? So I think they're trying to link both of this here.
I think it is true. The labor cost is lower in India as compared to the US. Just going back to the Narayana Health example, the cost of a medical doctor, a cardiac surgeon in India, if it is $1, in the US it is $4. But the staff is even more. If the cost of a nurse in India is $1, in the US it is $40. So there is a cost difference. But what I did was I took Narayana Health's staff and medical professionals and adjusted them for US salaries. Therefore, what happened then is the cost of open heart surgery moved from $2,000 to $15,000. That is still a far cry from $150,000. Yes, labor cost accounts for certain differences, but that is not the whole story. The whole story is management innovation. That is why you are in Great Lakes. I think management can add significant value. If you can think innovatively, you will be able to bring down the cost. Now, you asked the question, why is cost so high in the US? It is primarily because of mindset. We are dealing with rich patients. We are dealing with rich consumers. They don't mind the inefficiency. That is why educational institutions in the US are able to charge a high fare. Healthcare institutions are able to charge a high fare. It is a mindset, but if very high quality products at an ultra low cost from these poor countries come into the US, then they will get disrupted. Has it not happened in automobile industry? Once upon a time, the big three, now they are big two, auto companies, General Motors and Ford, thought they are unassailable. What happened when Toyota and Honda came? Did that not happen to US Postal Service? Once upon a time, they thought nobody will touch them. What happened to them when FedEx came? Is it not happened to taxi companies, which are highly regulated? Therefore, they thought they were protected and can be highly inefficient and high cost. What happened when Uber came along? The point is, the way I would, maybe this is a good time for me to wrap up so that I can hand it over back to you. The reason I'm mentioning reverse innovation is it is a great opportunity for India. Therefore, all of you are graduating. think about ways by which you can leverage your knowledge and skills and capabilities to serve India first. And serving India first, because in India today, 1 billion, of the 1 billion people, only 10% have the product and services of high quality. 90% are non-consumers of just about everything. You have to convert the 90% non-consumers into consumers. That is the essence of breakthrough innovation. That is what Narayana Health did. 90% of the people in India didn't have access to open heart surgery. He said, I'm going to do something about that. All of you should use your skills and capabilities to serve India first, which is to convert non-consumers into consumers in India. By the way, if you can do that, there is a bonus, which is you can take those innovations and take it to other emerging markets like Bangladesh and Pakistan and Nepal and Afghanistan and continent of Africa, but also can ultimately bring it into the US. By the way, this is the best way you can address income inequality in India. The best way to address income inequality is not to tax the rich and give it to the poor. Instead, give the poor the opportunity to migrate and make more money. This is exactly what Narayana Health is doing. When you do an open heart surgery, you are extending the productive life of that person. Otherwise, the person would have died. The best way to solve income inequality is income mobility. When you innovate for the poor, you are giving them an opportunity to make more money in the future. I say reducing income inequality is the highest #1 problem in India today. And reducing that income inequality is the highest form of achievement that Indians can be proud of. That is the opportunity all of you youngsters have. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Vijay, for such rich insights. And I'm sure this is going to go a long way for our students. Let me hand this over to Professor Sanjay Sarkar for the vote of thanks.
Before Sanjay, let me introduce a point.
Sure.
Yes, he was talking about healthcare, but you wouldn't believe in the IT and technology industry, the Indians need not even come to US. They can be staying wherever they are, even in a village called Manamai. And you produce a great product, technological. If you go on Google search, who is the richest person in Albany, New York, state capital of New York, you will see two guys, Guhan and Karthik, age 21. Age 21, the best games of the world were invented by them at age 21. And they sold their company, each one having at least $270 million after tax at age 21. All right, not a big deal experience. So there are so much of innovation can be done with the world market. And take Cipla, for example, the HIV program that they had at the highest quality in the world. They challenged the quality. They showed highest quality in the world. And price is unbelievable, same story. So there are tons of story. All it takes is you to put your mind and just don't getting the A grade. Yes, important. B grade means better. C grade means cute. D grade means distinction. Don't worry about the grade. A is average. All right. So do the best, man, with a purpose, and you have. Search your soul and be a Hanuman, not a squirrel. You can serve the world. Thanks a lot, Vijay. Sanjay, sorry about it. Go ahead.
No, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Govindarajan. You have always been a great supporter of Great Lakes, and every year you come and speak to our students about your latest research. And it was a wonderful insight where you linked the whole idea of creativity and innovation to a sense of purpose. Very typically, at an MBA school, we look at the issues of innovation or creativity in terms of what you described as throwing money after solving a very, very small problem rather than any link to a greater purpose. And the point that you made is this linkage to a purpose, I think, is what is making many MBAs today across business schools going for social entrepreneurship. And what you described as innovation being value for many. And this linkage of purpose and innovation, even in the US today, I think you have got in the healthcare sector a lot of private equity social entrepreneurs. There is this new fund called T1D fund, which is actually a type 1 diabetes fund. It's essentially a private equity fund which invests in type 1 diabetes research and puts back whatever it gets in these companies. They are not putting their money in fundamental research, but into startups doing research into type 1 diabetes. And whatever returns that they make from these private equity investments, they fund more and more startups doing this kind of research. I think your whole idea, that you espouse, which is about linking creativity, innovation, and thinking about a broader purpose, is not just for developing countries. Even in developed countries, I think the basic organizational structures and a lot of the management tenets, which is this Friedmanian tenet of the only purpose of a business is to make profits. It's going to undergo a gigantic change over the next few years. And thank you for being a pioneer in this thought leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, all of you.
Thanks a lot, Vijay. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Folks, we have the founder and current chairman of ZS on 24th on the Thought Leader series. And we will have Huggy Rao sometime. So these are all the two things which are so far unfinished. And after that, we will have some discussion of integrating the values that we got from these Thought Leader series kind of programs. I want to have a healthy discussion, debate, whatnot. And I think we will be more creative. And I think we will have this Thought Leader series as a monthly program. In each month, you will have a distinguished speaker, either from the industry or from the academic world or any world, right? Who can bring a different twist in addition to the topics, tools, techniques that you are learning. I am positive the impact of COVID in India is going to get reduced and the campus will be open. Nothing, I can tell you, can replace being physically inside the campus. And that too, this particular campus, platinum rated, this is like a resort. If you come here automatically, ask the question, there are so many trees. What can be the age of the trees? Nobody will estimate less than 20. They are all less than 10. Why they did grow so well? And that means the ambiance. The same ambiance will be there for you. Your not only physical growth, but the mental growth will become awesome. And this 1 year of your life will never come back. So take the maximum advantage. Don't cut some of these lessons or whatnot. There may be some people did not attend. Vijay, this guy is #1 in the world with the highest price he charges. All right. Yes, the very simple fact is if Kotler or Mike Porter does the consulting, they charge significant money. nothing less than $50,000 a day. But Indians are doing better than that. All right. Why? So the perception that the Indian products or the services are poor is no more exists. Now there is a word like a Swiss chocolate, German engineering, Indian techie. Don't lose that name. We can screw it up, of course, but don't do that. And let us create some value to the entire world and become a purposeful profit as our keynote. And I hope you enjoy this series. Thank you very much. And again, I want to thank personally those who put in a lot of time on the fifth with various programs that you did. It's an amazing program, and I really enjoyed it. And we will continue talking about it. And you are having right now the course from somebody. It's an Indian product produced by me. That is my son. Okay, so he is teaching you. But I tell you what, he got the Outstanding Professor of the Year award as an assistant professor in Columbia by the Americans.